All right, I'm very happy to welcome on Daniel McFadin. He was kind enough to give us some time before the Daytona 500. I know you're a very busy man this week with everything that's going on. So thank you first off for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me. We're recording this in 24 hours. I think I'll be in a plane. Yeah, I should be in a plane on my way to, or a layover, one or the other, on my way to Daytona. So
I'm jealous either way, layover or not. I'm jealous because that's a bucket list item for me. I've always wanted to go to the Daytona 500. So how many times have you been?
This is the first time I'll cover the 500. So.
Oh wow! So you must be pumped. All right. So
oh yeah, well
big...
yeah. I've been there before. I covered the summer races last year, and that was my first time covering a race there. But this is the first time covering the big deal.
That's awesome. Well, I'm excited for you because that's going to be a hell of an event. Are you doing all the races or just Sundays?
Well, I'll be there Tuesday through Tuesday. So yeah, I'll be on site covering it. So yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll get to all the preview stuff in a little bit. But first, before we get into anything with the season or anything like that, I do want to start with how did you develop your interest in NASCAR? How did you become a fan? Because this is an interesting topic for me coming from somewhere like Boston, where honestly, on a daily basis, I do not come across many NASCAR fans. It sucks on my part because I'd love to. This is why I'm having you on because I need someone to have a conversation with. So, so how did you develop that interest? First of all,
my dad. I was born and raised in the north of Dallas. Back in the 90s, and my dad's a racing guy, a car guy, and on the weekends, if we weren't watching the Dallas Cowboys play football, we were watching NASCAR. Fridays were for the Truck Series, Saturdays were the Busch Series and Dale Earnhardt Jr., and then Sundays was for cheering on Dale Earnhardt to beat Jeff Gordon.
Okay, I was the other way around, but it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, I was. You know what? I was a big fan of both. My dad. So I had the same exact thing. My dad got me into it. And he was obviously he was a huge Jeff Gordon fan, and I actually ended up being a Jimmy Johnson fan. I switched fanhood like really quickly. Like what I don't know if you ever got into the NASCAR video games back in the day, like NASCAR Thunder. So that's kind of how I developed my interest. Is my dad in that?
Not NASCAR Thunder, but I did play like the Papyrus games and then the EA Sports games there around the turn of the century. The last one I played before the Heat games came out, in the last like 6 years, was Chase for the Cup in 2005 with Kevin Harvick on the cover. And that's, for me, that's the pinnacle. I agree. That should just be the blueprint for any NASCAR game. So, and they just keep disappointing me.
I know. Nothing will ever live up to the NASCAR Thunder, NASCAR Chase for the Cup age. I mean, it sucks because I keep looking for that something to be close to it, but these Heat games, they're okay, but they don't live up to that. And you mentioned your dad got you into it. Me and my dad used to play those games all the time, split screen and all that stuff. Now these new games, you can't even play split screen anymore. It's like, what is this world coming to? It's crazy.
Yeah, simple things that the games could use, and they're just like, nah.
No, we're not doing it anymore. But that's cool. I had very similar upbringing into NASCAR and everything. Big Jeff Gordon fan, and then I saw Jimmy Johnson was a rookie. He was on the back of the NASCAR. I want to say it was 03. He was a rookie in 03, I believe.
Yeah.
And he was on the back of that. And I'm like, who's this 48 guy? And my dad's
he was a rookie. I think
was it 02 or 03 or it was between 02 and 04.
I'm trying to figure out which. There was that one year where he made like 5 starts. I can't remember if it was 01 or 02. So
I didn't know it would be that early. Either way, I mean, he was on the back of the game, and I'm like, who's 48? And my dad's like, oh, he's with Hendricks. He's Jeff Gordon's teammate now. And I'm like, I think this, whatever reason, I'm like 10 years old at this point, and I'm like, for whatever reason, that's my guy now. And it turned out to be a pretty decent pick.
So you went from one vanilla personality to another.
I guess so.
At least you're consistent.
Hey, I was just following my dad. He was a big Hendrick Motorsports guy. I was just like, okay, I'm in. I'm in. But not so much anymore, to be honest with you. I don't even know. I still need to pick like a new guy. I don't know who to pick right now. It's still tough.
I have my favorites, and I don't like saying them because
right, you have to be professional and all that. I get it.
Yeah, but it's always kind of always found it weird the reasons people will choose certain drivers. And some of them make sense. I'm like, he won the first race I went to, and so that was my guy. Like, that makes sense. That makes complete sense.
Right.
And then you get fans are like, yeah, I only cheer for Ford drivers. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Like,
Right.
Manufacturer fans have never made sense to me.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense
all.
to me either. And you know what? My dad was a big like I forget. He hated Ford for whatever reason. Don't know why. He'd be like, "Oh, fix or repair daily." He'd give all like the acronyms. He'd make fun of it that way. He's a big Chevy guy, which makes sense.
Oh yeah, Dad, tell that to Mark Martin. Yeah. He keeps winning.
Right. Yeah. So that's kind of how that went. But yeah, like I mentioned before, growing up in Boston here, they're really it's unfortunate because even with New Hampshire Motor Speedway, which is 2 hours from where I live, I mean it's once you go there, obviously there's a ton of interest, but here not so much. What, in your opinion, does NASCAR have to do to kind of start appealing to the casual fans around here who might not have made that decision to not like NASCAR? Like they're kind of just in the middle. They need to win them over.
Well, I think you're starting to see it with what happened last weekend in LA. They have to bring the event in some fashion or form to those casual fans. So how far is of a drive is it from Boston to New Hampshire Motor Speedway?
From where I live, which is like 20-30 minutes from Boston, it's like 2 hours, maybe a little bit less.
There you go. That's part of it. That's so people just don't want to make a 2-hour drive anymore.
Right.
I mean, I'll make that drive.
I'm all for it. Yeah. Some people don't.
But yeah, like I said, like the Clash, that's a huge thing. Like NASCAR keeps touting it. I mean, we don't have documentation, but they keep saying that, 70% of the fans who attended, 70% of the fans who input credit card numbers into Ticketmaster, they had never been to a NASCAR race before, or weren't in NASCAR's system saying they'd been to a race. That doesn't mean 70% of the people who were in that bowl had been to a NASCAR race. But regardless, there were a lot of new people there. So, and you need to do stuff like that. And after the Clash, my thought was, it'd be a cool location to hold a race like that, a cool stadium. Fenway Park.
Yes, it would be. It would be very complicated, but it would be great. I agree.
Because one, you have the connection to the sport through RFK Racing. Didn't
even think of that. That's a great point.
That's reason number one. Then people brought up, well, it's cold in February. It's like, well, okay, you don't necessarily have to do the Clash. It could be its own separate thing, like the All-Star race. But then it's like, the Red Sox, they're playing from April through whenever. But I still think it'd be cool to be watching a race like on top of the Green Monster.
It absolutely would be. And if it's not there, you could still do it somewhere close to Boston. Like you could still find a place in the area, whether even, I don't know how the logistics of everything, but Foxborough, maybe like if you did it there somewhere around like, where the Patriots play and everything, Gillette Stadium. I don't know how that all would work, but it'd be great to be able to do something like that. I think another thing that's kind of hurt NASCAR, and it's definitely, I'd say these last couple of years, very, very much improved, is all the stereotypes that come along with NASCAR. I think it's had a hard time breaking out of that reputation. I think it's like, I know early 2000s, probably when I was first really starting to get into NASCAR, people automatically would like look at you like, oh, you're a redneck. Oh, you're this and you're that. It's like, dude, no, I just like watching racing. I don't know why you're like, it has that label to it. So that's another thing. I wish it would kind of break off of that reputation. Do you kind of feel like it's starting to pull away from that a little bit?
Well, it started pulling away from it in 1995 when Jeff Gordon won. Yeah. Like, I mean, the reason Jeff Gordon was so big, was so huge, was because he wasn't a 45-year-old guy with a mustache, talks like this. He was after 1993 and after he shaved his mustache, and he got those movie star looks. He just looked like he was outside the norm. Right. And that's why he was a big deal. that's why Danica Patrick was a big deal. And to a degree, why Dale Earnhardt Jr. Was, even though, yes, he has that Southern accent.
Right.
He had the Earnhardt name, but he had this markability. He had this presence about him that other drivers did not. And now you got Bubba Wallace, who is as far away from the norm as you can get when it comes to breaking out the stereotypes about NASCAR. And that's like, I wrote a column about this for Front Stretch last year about how frontstretch.com, how Bubba Wallace is the face of NASCAR outside of the bubble.
Right.
Out the echo chamber, it is Bubba Wallace. Inside, Chase Elliott. And what NASCAR needs to do, and what Chase Elliott needs to get on board with doing, and he's really kind of like seems to be resisting it, is just do that. You need to put the emphasis on this. This is prop Bubba up on the outside, and just keep boosting on Chase, because Chase Elliott, I'm sure if you ask the general person outside of the bubble, they're like, who? Right. So, and just those are your strengths, and play to them for as long as you can. But just marketing, call, like there wasn't a single outside of the pre-race, the pre-game thing yesterday, with the drivers driving cars at the Clash. I didn't see any NASCAR ads on Super Bowl Sunday. I
think there was one last year. I feel like there was one last year, but the game, if I might be mistaken, the Super Bowl, I believe last year was on Fox. I'm not positive about that. And I think that might have been why it was kind of advertised there, because NBC, I don't believe airs NASCAR anymore. I could be wrong, but I believe that NBC Sports, like the NBC Sports Network. I'm not.
NBC has since gone now.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like NBSN's just gone. So
but they'll still be playing races on NBC USA Network. So it's
I more mean for the Daytona 500. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Show, like, my big thing, a thing I've been harping on for a long time is when you turn into a NASCAR race, you no longer see commercials, or you see very few commercials from sponsors featuring drivers. Very few. Like last year, you had quite a few with Bubba. You had Toyota commercial, like 2 Toyota commercials that featured Kyle Busch. There was an Alex Bowman Ally commercial that got some play. But other than that, like, there wasn't even a commercial for Chase Elliott from Napa, from Hooters, from his energy drink that he sponsored, whatever it is, or any of his other sponsors. Not a single one saying we're insert blank and we're proud to sponsor the defending NASCAR Cup champion Chase Elliott. There wasn't a one. Start there.
It's a great place to start.
And I know, like, someone like Bob Hawkers will say, well, who's a good friend of mine, will say, well, companies, they see more value in social media engagement, so they'll do stuff, do a commercial for social media. Well, okay, a fraction of the NASCAR fan base, and not just the NASCAR fan base, just the general population is on social media, is on Twitter.
We make that mistake of thinking the whole world is Twitter. Like, I think if you're on Twitter a lot, whether it's for your profession or you just happen to be on there a lot, which those people I feel bad for, if you're just on there all the time for no reason. That's, you live in your own little echo chamber where there's that's not the world. So that's what a lot of these companies, I think, fail to realize sometimes.
Well, you saw the commercials last week in the Clash that featured the Advanced Auto Parts commercial with Blaney and Logano.
Yep.
Loved that. I might get tired of it after a little bit, but that's some of the energy that needs to be in NASCAR commercials that I wish these sponsors would recognize. And then there's also the commercial with Chase Briscoe and Tony Stewart for their tractor supply. That was peak. That felt like a 2005 era NASCAR commercial. I was like,
everything you're saying reminds me, because I'm a huge baseball fan, and it's kind of going through the same struggles right now with marketability. I mean, you do have all these terrific players. It's just like there's a bunch of marketable drivers right now. I don't think there's been a time in NASCAR where there's been this many marketable drivers. Yes, you had the age with Jeff Gordon, you had Tony Stewart, you had Dale Earnhardt, and that was a great age too. But like right now, these young drivers are something else. Like you should be able to market the hell out of them.
Yeah, but like Bubba Wallace was great in his commercials. You saw with Blaney, he's great. Blaney is of the current crop of drivers, he's the most natural actor. Like he was in The Crew.
He's made for it.
Yeah, he's been in some other shows like the Taken TV show that was briefly on. Magnum PI. But yeah, he's a natural. And he's just a natural, and I'm glad that Advanced Auto Parts is finally utilizing him in that way. But like Alex Bowman has this very low key, droll sense of humor. Yeah. He's the Matt Kenseth of his generation.
I like that comparison. That's a good comparison.
Because Matt Kenseth's sense of humor snuck up on me late in his career.
Right.
Where it's like, oh wow, this guy's hilarious.
Yep.
And yeah, that's what Alex Bowman has really, I think, taken up that mantle. He's very, very self-deprecating. But yeah, like there are plenty of drivers that have sense of humor that should be used in commercials, and also used in commercials that aren't just playing during NASCAR races. That's right. Key.
Yeah.
Like they need to be playing on ESPN, like during SportsCenter. I don't know how much that costs, but if I had a decision, that's where they'd be playing.
I think all those were great points. And now as we get into this season, I hope to see more of that. I think it's going to be a great set. Last season was a great step in the right direction. I love what they did with all the new road courses. I thought they really thought outside the box with a lot of the things they did. Now, so jumping into next season, and speaking of thinking out of the box, we talked about the Clash a little bit earlier. What were because I'm coming at you from more of a fan perspective. You're more of the expert. You've been in this field for a little while now,
and a fan. I'm still a fan,
yeah, for sure. I'm admittedly not an expert. I'm just a big fan of NASCAR. Yeah. So I'm interested in your perspective of how the Clash went in your eyes. Was it a massive hit? Like what were your main takeaways from the Clash?
Oh, it was absolutely a massive hit. When you have like an almost 200% increase in ratings from last year to this year. And like Kevin Harvick put it best the day before at his media availability, which was like after practice, after they'd gone through their 3 practice sessions. He's like, I don't think you could screw this up from this point. Yeah. We've been on the track. Nothing bad happened.
Right.
And we can race. They put on a race. And when the worst thing that happened of the entire weekend was the awkward dignitaries being announced but not coming out. Like where are they? When that's the worst thing that happened, it's an absolute straight up success. It was like watching a Martinsville race, just except slightly smaller. It was a race. You saw Kyle Larson put on a 3-wide pass on the front stretch at one point. I was like, okay, all right. I wish it had been 200 laps. Really, that's really my only nitpick. I wanted more. And if you're coming away from it wanting more,
that's a good thing.
That's good. And when was the last time you could say, oh yeah, I wish that Clash at Daytona was just a few more laps so we could wreck 10 more cars. And which I put at this point on Twitter, I think last week, if I were to take a new person who had never laid eyes on NASCAR to a first NASCAR event, I will take them to a Clash-like event before I take them to the Daytona 500.
Interesting. Okay. Why is that?
Absolutely. Well, I should find a link to like a YouTube video that just shows a montage of the big one at Daytona.
Yeah.
Just boom, just like 15, 18 car wrecks. And it's, that's the one thing I the Daytona 500, it's the biggest NASCAR race of the year for obvious reasons. People say it's a Super Bowl and hey, it should be the end of the year. No. Just no, because of the wrecks. But the thing that I don't like about it being the first race is that you have people just tuning in, getting their first impression, and they're just they're racing around in packs, which can be thrilling at times. But then you have the wrecks, and they might like it. They might, oh man, this is awesome.
Right.
But then the next week you're going to Auto Club Speedway, and after that you're going to Phoenix. And
so you mean you're going from sort of the highs of highs, all the action, to more of just the strategic racing, and then that might be where you lose them? Is that what you're trying to say?
Not the, just in the sense that what you see in the Daytona 500 is what you don't get. That it's not representative of the rest of the year. You well, up till this year you had four super speedway races, and now they've added 2 more with Atlanta. So it's slightly more representative now, but like if you're sitting in the stands at the Daytona 500, the field comes around, boom, gone.
And then it's just 2 miles away.
1 minute. It's like, all right, okay, here they come.
Right.
Like I've been to one Talladega race back in 2012, and that's what it was. It was just boom. Like I remember the last lap, Brad Keselowski was leading. Kyle Busch was like right on his tail. They go by, white flag, and then they come back around, and Keselowski's like slightly farther ahead. Right. They're like, what happened?
What happened?
Like,
Yeah, right.
I have no idea what happened. But it's just, yeah. I would rather them watch. I'd rather take a fan to the Clash. I'd rather take a fan to Martinsville, Bristol,
yeah,
Phoenix, maybe for a first race, but I would not take them to Daytona. I would not take them to Talladega for a first NASCAR experience, just because
I prefer not to take them to New Hampshire, but that's the only choice I have.
No. New Hampshire, the last 3 years, actually.
You know what? You're right. The races I've actually gone to the last two out of the 3 races. 2 years ago I went, and then this past year I went, and they were actually really good. They're good races.
Like I don't know what, like they had the PJ1 down. That definitely helped. Because you had the year where Harvick gave Kyle Busch the boot.
I was there.
Turn 2.
Yeah.
It's like, where has this been?
Right.
What? And then you had the year where Harvick and Hamlin are fighting, and they make contact and turn 4, come in checkered flag. It's like, where has this been? And then last year,
Amarillo
you have that one period in the race where Keselowski and Blaney were going at it middle of the race, and it was like, it was thrilling. And I can't believe that. I think maybe if you combine the PJ1 and maybe the car finally somehow meeting at a point with the track and what it's capable of, and it finally just this confluence of events, and all of a sudden New Hampshire is a really, really interesting track.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just know, like, a lot of the time it's got, just because there's no banking, they're going so slow in the corners, and it's not the fastest track in the world either. So if you're going, like, don't expect them to be going 180 at New Hampshire. They're going to be going more so like 120 in the straightaways. But so that's kind of what I mean. Like, if I'm going to bring someone, they're going to be like, yeah, they're going fast, but I thought it was a little faster than this, like, but yeah.
Well, like the top speed with the Clash was like, I don't know what, high 60 miles per hour.
Yeah. And it was still a blast.
Yeah. Like, I remember my mom said, oh, they're going to be going so slow. Okay. Yeah, sure. But there's a trophy on the line. So let's see what happens.
So as we get into the Daytona 500 here, we're going to have some new notable drivers and new rides. A few of them. We got, obviously, Keselowski. He's with Roush Fenway. Keselowski now. Number 6 car. We got Cindric. We got with Penske. We got Allmendinger with Colored Racing. We have Harrison Burton with Wood Brothers, Justin Haley, Colored Racing, Ty Dillon, Petty GMS, Kurt Busch. He's teammates with Bubba Wallace now with 2311 Racing. Out of these new drivers, and we're going to get to specifically the rookies in a second, who are you most excited to watch in their new ride? I think the obvious pick is probably Keselowski, just because he's maybe the most popular. Kurt Busch would be my pick with 2311, but I want to know what you think.
Oh, Kurt Busch, 100%.
Yeah.
Because he is he's the most consistent driver out there. He gets you 1 win a year, but he's competitive.
Yeah.
He improves everyone. Every team he's been on, he's improved. From Furniture Racing, Phoenix Racing, Stuart Haas, it's Chip Ganassi. Where he goes, he makes people better. And with 2311 Racing in its second year, with full Toyota support, it's going to be really interesting to see where he is as a driver just now compared to last year, because Chip Ganassi Racing wasn't top tier. They weren't hot stuff. But like all the ingredients should be there for him to really show off what he's got at this late stage in his career. But yeah, second place would be Keselowski. This is the first time, or I'm just gonna say Roush Fenway because just as a shorthand.
I know, yeah.
Roush Fenway Racing.
Yeah.
Where that Roush Fenway's had a championship driver since Kenseth left. And they've won 2 races since 2014, and those were both on super speedways. Brad Keselowski is good pretty much everywhere, outside of probably road courses, really. So it's going to be interesting to see a guy who is still in his prime, who's a proven winner, what he can do with that team that's been just falling off the face of the earth for the last almost decade. They just hired David Smith, the analytics guru guy, to be a part of it. So that's Keselowski just looking into the future and trying to be proactive rather than be reactive. That's very much Brad Keselowski's brand. So it's very, very interesting to see him really just taking the initiative and really trying to make that team better out of the box. It wasn't on display at the Clash, unfortunately.
Yeah.
With neither of their drivers making the show. But hey, it's an exhibition race.
Do you expect him to have the sort of the same success that he had with Penske, or do you think there's going to be a little drop off there?
Oh yeah, there's going to be drop off.
Okay,
like they're so far out in left field compared to where the rest of the forwards have been.
Yeah.
They got work to do. Can Keselowski win a race? Yeah. Probably super speedway.
Yeah.
But here's the thing though, because of the next gen car, we don't know anything like at all. So like it'll be by my guess, like David Wilson, the president of Toyota Racing Development, had a press conference last week, and he said, any other given year, you would know by the first Martinsville race or the first Texas race which teams, which manufacturers, which drivers had an edge over everyone else. He said that's out the window this year. So usually my benchmark has always been the Coke 600. That's basically the quarter mark, more or less. So it every week is going to be fun to watch. Practice is going to be a thing you have to watch just to see what people try.
Yeah.
Who misses the mark? Because you have very short practice sessions. So you have teams that are going to be under the gun, just trying stuff, just like throwing stuff at it and seeing what sticks and what doesn't. And the first stage of races are going to be just balls to the walls. Like, all right. Do you remember the first Martinsville night race during the COVID season? Do you remember that one?
Vaguely, yeah. I probably need a little refresher there, but yes.
Well, I've never seen a race where drivers who started up front just dropped like rocks.
Yeah.
They were just irrelevant. Like Denny Hamlin was one of the drivers. He started near the front and they just missed it. And it was noticeable.
Right.
And they got lapped like real quickly. And I think that will be kind of the template for what we might be seeing throughout this year, with very little practice, just little experience with these cars. and just not knowing anything.
Well, sorry to interrupt you, but what's been the general consensus with these next gen cars among the drivers? Like, are they like, is it a negative sort of thing so far? Or because I know again, coming from like a fan, when there's change, sometimes you're reluctant to see change like this. I mean, for me, it's more of like a cosmetic thing. It's like, what do you mean the numbers are in the front now? It's like, but I mean, I can get over that rather quickly, but. Yeah. In terms of how these next gen cars work, I mean, is this going to be a tough adjustment for fans to watch, or is this more so like the drivers are just going to have it's going to be an adjustment period for them, or both?
Well, I think the feedback from drivers so far has been pretty positive, especially given that they're going with the 670 horsepower package over the 550 package at intermediate tracks. Thank goodness. Because the drivers say the cars are harder to drive. And the thing you've been hearing over the last few years from drivers was like, make the cars harder to drive and you'll get a better show.
Right.
I mean,
the talent will win out as opposed to just the car. Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's new things like, in the cockpit, you like that got the sequential shifter instead of the traditional H. So there's stuff that the drivers are going to have to like to quote, Giant Master Yoda, you have to unlearn what you have learned. And that's really what I think the first half of this year is going to be, is teams and drivers just completely rewriting their notebooks, redeveloping themselves in certain ways. It's going to be so interesting and fun to watch. It's going to be Pandora's box every week, in my opinion.
Yeah, agreed. Getting into specific drivers here, we'll go back to 2311 racing real quick, starting with Bubba Wallace. You talked about before how he's like the face of NASCAR now, rightfully so. With Kurt Busch now as his teammate, how much do you think, because Bubba Wallace had a up and down, but mostly down year last year in his debut season, how would you say Kurt Busch is going to help him out this year? Will he help him out? How competitive do you think Wallace will be this season?
Well, you've already seen the effect of it. The media, we got to talk with the president of 2311 Racing last week, and also Mike Wheeler, who's the competition director for 2311 Racing. And I asked Mike Wheeler, like, what's been a surprising impact of Kurt Busch already? And he said, like, at the Clash, like, I'm sure you remember, like, Bubba Wallace was not good in practice, like bottom 2 spots of practice. And Wheeler said, like, he was pretty down in the dumps after that, like, because they just missed something. And then he had Kurt go talk to him, and Kurt they had similar setups. And so Kurt was like, hey man, I've been there. Here's what I would do. And he give him advice and stuff. And you come out in qualifying, but Bubba qualified mid pack, and Kurt Busch, he's the guy who qualified in the back because he was one of the first guys out, and you never want to be one of the first guys out in qualifying. But whatever Kurt said to Bubba helped in some way. So it's like this is the first time that Bubba has ever had a real true teammate. He had the Joe Gibbs guys last year, but they're still their own team. And even though he had Denny Hamlin, Denny's still his boss, still his owner. Kurt and Bubba are teammates, same level,
equals, right?
So it's a different dynamic, and I think he should improve this year. Like, the main goal last year was like they wanted to run in the top 20 and finish in the top 15, stuff like small goals like that.
Yeah.
They get that win at Talladega, that's a huge deal.
Right, that's huge.
Regardless of anything, if you're a first year team and you win, that hasn't been done since Hendrick Motorsports in 1984.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
So, like there are going to be expectations. This is your second year. Run in the top 10, finish in the top 10. He did not have a top 10 finish outside of the top 5. He didn't finish 10th through 6th all year. So you need runs like that. But I think we'll see it.
And he was running well in the Daytona 500 last year until the very end. And I remember that specifically because I might have placed a little wager on Bubba Wallace to win. And I was a little upset at the end of that race, but no big deal.
No, he's proven, like, even before Talladega, he's proven he can run on super speedways. The problem he had up until last year, like, he could get to the front, but he couldn't stay there.
Yeah.
But last year he proved that he could stay there, and that was a really nice development to see that progression.
Yeah, and then talking about Denny Hamlin, obviously the owner of 23XI Racing, but also a guy who is still chasing his first championship.
Yeah,
he's consistently one of the best drivers on the circuit. You just can't seem to really finish the job, and I think that's sort of the reputation that he's getting. And I mean, he at this point, it's hard to say he doesn't deserve that. I mean, he just hasn't been able to finish. So what does he have to do to kind of get over that hump? And it's going to be even tougher this year with the next gen cars. I mean, it's not going to get any easier for him.
But I don't know what he needs to do, because, like, he's 2 years ago, he arguably had the best year of his career.
Right.
And then last year he had one of the most consistent years of his career, where he didn't even lead he led the points for like 3/4 of the year, maybe half the year, without winning a race.
Yeah.
So, like, and he's still not, like, he just turned 40. So he's still in that window where he's technically in his prime. But I think he like he has said, like, he's won everything except the title.
Yeah.
He really doesn't have anything to prove at this point. No one's gonna he's already,
it's only a championship. Championship's it. That's all he needs.
Yeah. Like, him and other drivers have said, like, reaching the Final Four is now kind of like it. I mean, it's not winning the championship, but getting to the Final Four is now its own achievement by itself.
Right. Yeah.
Which kind of, like, makes up for the lack of championship, and he's reached that Final Four multiple times.
Right.
Like, is he technically the new Mark Martin?
Oh my God, I'm so glad you said that, because the amount of times I didn't know if I was the only one who was just like comparing him to Mark Martin all the time. I'm like, Dad, this guy is just Mark Martin. He's Mark Martin reincarnated. So I am glad you brought that
up. Yeah. Is he technically Mark Martin? Yeah. He's got more wins than Mark Martin, but he's also won stuff that Mark Martin didn't win. He's won 3 Daytona 500. Mark Martin never won the Daytona 500.
Yeah.
He's won other stuff that I can't think of off the top of my head that Mark Martin didn't win. But yes, he's this generation's Mark Martin until he wins a championship. And then Mark Martin can once again have the title of best Cup driver to never win a championship.
Unfortunate title, but hey, he's still a legend. Still managed to be a legend, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Going back to, I mentioned before, we'll get into the rookies, and there's 3 specifically, obviously: Harrison Burton, Austin Cindric, Todd Gilliland. So who do you have your eye on this season? I know the probably most popular one's Harrison Burton and the Wood brothers, but who are you eyeing this year? Who's your rookie of the year pick?
I mean, the easy pick is to say Austin Cindric. Just because he's an Xfinity champion. He's won a lot in the Xfinity series. Harrison Burton didn't win at all last year.
Right. So, yeah.
Which is concerning, but I think Harrison Burton is capable of winning. It'll be interesting to see what kind of leash Harrison Burton has, given that with it, the Wood brothers are basically Team Penske. So you have to ask yourself, what kind of leash does he have with Team Penske?
Yeah.
I think Cindric has a longer leash because of what he's accomplished in the last couple of years. I'm not expecting too much out of Todd Gilliland,
right?
In the 38 car, but I expect more out of him than I expected from the last guys who were in that car. Todd Gilliland has won at the Truck Series. He's been a front runner. Anthony Alfredo hasn't won anything.
Yeah.
Who was in the car before him?
The 38.
Yeah.
Oh man, it wasn't Chris Buescher, was it?
Chris Buescher? No. Who was it? Shoot.
I can't.
Oh, John Hunter Nemechek was in it before.
Yes, that's right.
Actually, I would have expected a little bit more out of John Hunter Nemechek that year, but he's proving himself in the truck series right now.
Yeah.
So so yeah, I expect more out of Todd Gilliland, but if I'm ranking them, I expect it to be Cindric, Burton, Todd Gilliland.
Yeah, I say that's the popular order, I think. You mentioned the truck series, and a guy who used to be in the 21 Wood Brothers is Matthew Benedetto. How's he gonna get back into the Cup series? I mean, what does he gotta do?
Win? Like
yeah, I know.
It's just there's really not much to say. Matt DiBenedetto has not won a single points race in any of NASCAR's top 3 series.
Yeah.
He kept saying he thought he deserved to be in the Cup series. He never proved it. Did he get a couple second place finishes when he was driving 21? Yeah. But he just wasn't consistent.
Yeah.
He never backed anything up. And now he's in the trucks after talking himself out of probably any other opportunity. And he's in the war, the number 25 truck, which hasn't been a front running truck really. Mid pack.
If he does win, if he does find success in the truck series, do you see him coming back to the Cup series full time in the next couple of years?
Oh man.
That doesn't seem like a confident answer, so I'm going to go with no on that.
like I said, he talked himself out of many chances with the stuff he was doing off to the side, politics wise, late last year.
That's right. That's true.
So, if we see him back, I will be surprised. So.
Interesting. Okay.
Go win. That's the best cure for stuff like this. Go win.
That is the key. And a guy we saw win plenty of times last year, Kyle Larson. He had his own issues, obviously, before that. I want to know kind of your take on the whole Kyle Larson, I guess, movie that happened, because it was like a Hollywood movie that he started off, he had his downfall, and he came back and dominated last season, and it was one of the best seasons we've ever seen in NASCAR. So what's kind of your take on the whole Kyle Larson? Will we see maybe a repeat performance this year?
When you said movie, I was like, wait, did I miss something?
No, no, but it was like a script, though. I mean, the movie script wrote itself with Kyle Larson last year.
Yeah, I mean, it did. With Kyle Larson, like when he got to the Cup Series, there was so much hype around him. Oh, he's the next great talent. It was like, and then he took 100 races to win. And then when he won, he could only win on 2-mile speedways. Mm-hmm. And then there was the year where he just fell off the face of the planet. Didn't win anything. And then finally won like late in 2019 at Dover once. And it's like, he was not living up to any of the expectations around him. And I wasn't impressed, frankly.
Yeah.
At all. And then the racial slur thing happened and he was out of a job. And then he gets, the best car in the series.
Yeah.
Which is like this whole other conversation.
I agree with you. It's
like, Hendrick got him at a much cheaper price than what they would have otherwise, which is part of it. And then that basically becomes the house car. It's the HendrickCars.com car. Right. So that's coming out of Rick Hendrick's pocket. But Kyle Larson got the best ride in the series after everything he went through. And did he show off his talent? Yes, he absolutely did. He won 10 races.
Yeah.
Which, Harvick won 9 the year before. So it's not like we hadn't seen that kind of season.
I didn't expect to see basically a repeat of Harvick's season so quickly. I thought what Harvick did was incredible. I didn't expect anyone to match that anytime soon, but obviously Larson.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
But I don't have Larson's wins like in front of me. Like hold on.
You mean like where he won? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. You can
everywhere.
You can edit. It wasn't. It really.
I know.
Kyle,
he said he struggled at Talladega, I believe. He went into that race being like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna suck there." Like he knew.
He's never been like, just based off my memory, like an exceptional super speedway racer.
Right.
So where was he? 01. Vegas, Charlotte. So that's 2 550 horsepower tracks. Sonoma, that was 750, but road course.
Road, yep.
Nashville, that was one of the 2 750 ovals. Watkins Glen, again, road course. Bristol, short track. Charlotte, road course, and then Fort Worth, Kansas, again, 550 oval. And then you got Phoenix. So take out the 2 550 ovals, and then you got that's 4. So you got 6. And then you got the road courses. So that was 1, 2, 3. All right, take those out. So then that means you got Phoenix, Bristol, Nashville. You got 3. Like those 3. Like, it's impressive wherever you won. That's good. That's great.
Yeah.
But those are really the 3 races, I think, that really show off what a driver
talent. Yeah.
Yeah, that for me anyway. He drove his butt off at Sonoma. Like like he had to come back through the field to win that race, if I remember correctly. Having the different packages at different tracks really just kind of, for me anyway, just like throws off your perceptions of what a driver can and can't do, and whether they just have a good car or not. Specifically the 550 ovals. Yeah. That has an asterisk for me, and not just for Larson. That's really anyone. But with a one pretty much 100% across the board, aside from Daytona, Talladega, and Atlanta, everyone's gonna have the same package, the same rules. So the assessment of drivers will be much more easier this year. So that's one reason I'm glad that they got rid of they changed their mind, right, from going from 550 to 670.
So being said, do you think we'll see another I guess dominant season that we just saw? Like not just out of Larson, but just out of anybody.
No, I don't. There's just too many unknowns week to week. Yeah. In this brand new car for that to happen. If anyone gets to 7 wins individually, I'll be surprised.
Awesome. That makes for a good season, though. I mean, I'd prefer. No, there's something about watching dominance it's as amazing as it is. I wish there was more. Like, I'd like to see someone else kind of get a win, like every now and then. Like, that's how I felt these past couple of years with Harvick and Larson. But
yeah, I'm right there. Like, it gets tiring writing the same story. Like,
oh yeah, I can imagine.
So and so dominated one. Yeah. Like the one like I cannot wait for the Coca-Cola 600, because for the last 4 years, that race has been whoever starts at the front is going to lead 395 laps out of 400. Yeah. And there's just no competition. So now with the 670 horsepower, 4-inch rear spoiler, I'm hoping that we see the most competitive Coke 600 in 10 years. I'm hoping, because that race that's a crown jewel race. That needs to be a good race. Yeah. And it just hasn't been for so long.
What are some of your favorite tracks that we'll wrap it up here in a moment, but I am interested because I think everyone kind of has their own taste. I mean, the typical ones are, I guess, Bristol, Daytona, that's probably the most popular choices. Among at least the people I know it's a small group of fans that I know here, but what are your favorite tracks that you look forward to each season?
Darlington's
that's mine.
Favorite track. It's also on the NASCAR heat games. It's always been the track where I go to just figure out setup stuff. Yeah, because it's a challenging track but fun. That's where I just figured out what I was most comfortable with setup wise on the games, and it's just the history of it. It's just, there's not a track like it with you get a very narrow turn 1, 2, and then a very wide. Maybe I'm getting confused. either way, the turns aren't different. They're completely different.
It's a unique track. It's not like, it's not your typical, it's not like Atlanta or Vegas where it's basically the same. Like it's a completely unique track. I think that's what makes it so fun. And obviously you have the memories, you have the nostalgia that comes along with it, with all the amazing races that we've had there. So Darlington's one up there for me.
And too. Just in like the last 3 years, like the Chase Briscoe, Kyle Busch Xfinity race. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like that was the pinnacle of what you want to see in a race. And then like all the Xfinity races there have been so good the last few years. And then you finally got one last year with Hamlin and Larson and this other 500 with that video game maneuver at the end.
Yep.
But yeah, Darlington's my number one. Bristol.
You like road courses, or are you big into the Rovals and everything? I think that's been a huge addition too.
Oh yeah, I've been a big road course guy since 2012 after the Keselowski Marcus Ambrose finish. That's when road courses really took off in popularity, because that they became a second short track, and they didn't really have that element up until the 2010s, and they just really put on really good shows. The Roval, Sonoma's really starting to come along now. They're going back to the old, not the old, but the format they used from like 99 up to 2018 or whatever.
Watkins Glen. I've always been a huge fan of Watkins Glen as well.
Watkins, like basically in 2012, I don't know if that was the year where they did it, but where they paved over the off section in turns 1 and 6. Once they paved those over and gave drivers runoff, they turned that track into a brawler's track.
Yeah.
Like, so now there you get drivers that will use all of turn 1, all of turn 5, and it just made the races there so much better. I kind of wish they would do it with Sonoma, because there's so much runoff on that track, and it's just dirt. I think if they put a little bit more pavement in certain areas, I think you could improve the racing there a little bit. But I've been a fan. The Coda, I'm looking forward to seeing what Coda's like not in a monsoon. What are the other road courses? Road America was really cool. That was an event.
Yes.
Because I grew up watching IndyCar races, on ESPN in the 90s at Road America. So that was finally good to see them there. The best part about the last 3 years when it comes to like scheduling, like a lot of it was done out of necessity because of COVID, which I think really finally broke the mold for NASCAR into opening their eyes and like, oh, the show can be whatever we need it to be, because like I know a lot of conversations like why does it go to like Iowa Speedway, like, oh, the facilities just aren't there. Okay, make the facilities, and that's what they did with the Clash. So that seeing NASCAR finally pivot, have quick reaction to what's popular has been really, really good. And like they're going to tracks where they should have been going all along. Like NASCAR is the number one motorsports in the country. Why did it take till 2021 for the Cup Series to go to Road America? That doesn't make sense.
Right.
And they finally went, and it was the most attended Road America event in 50 years. So
yeah,
that NASCAR's finally going to places where they should have been going. They're finally creating new stuff that they probably should have been creating 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think NASCAR has really benefited from embracing change and not being stuck in that old school mentality that, say, like I mentioned before, baseball has kind of been in for a little while. I think NASCAR has really benefited there with embracing that. And I think it's embraced, honestly, it always has, its rivalries. I think last year it did a great job of marketing, sort of, especially the Kevin Harvick, Chase Elliott rivalry we saw towards the end of last year. That was a lot of fun. I want to know, are we going to see any carryover there? And also, what other like sort of rivalries do you think we might see this year specifically? Like what might we have to keep our eye out for?
I think Harvick and Elliott have buried the hatchet. I think.
Are you sure? Because Chase Elliott selling like merch that was just it was like Christmas, like have a good off season.
Yeah, I wish I had that. I almost bought that. Because that's like the rare example of Chase Elliott showing his personality.
Yeah, true.
No, yeah, that I think they buried the hatchet. I think what happened to the Roval, that was it.
Yeah,
because
NASCAR they told them to stop.
Yeah, it's like that's it, enough. Yeah. But it was still fun.
Yeah,
but I don't know about rivalries this year, because rivalries usually come out of stuff that happens on track.
Right.
So we're not there yet. Though if backtrack. If Ryan Blaney and Eric Jones turn out to have like a rivalry, I'd be gobsmacked, because that's just not a pairing I would have ever had imagined. Not. Like the craziest thing that happened at the Clash was Ryan Blaney throwing his Hans device at Eric Jones.
Blaney, nonchalantly too. Just
what sucks is that no one captured video of it, so we just always. The pit reporters told us it happened, and then the camera captured it on the track.
Yeah.
But Blaney has such a non-flappable demeanor that you just wouldn't expect him to do that. Yep. So him doing that, he's mad. So.
Right. We also saw the whole mix up with Denny Hamlin and Chase Briscoe. That was that was another one. That was not during the Clash last year.
Last year.
I'm just thinking of different things that popped up last year. I don't know if maybe there'll be some carryover there, and someone at some point will get mad at Logano for something. We know that. So we can look forward to that. It could come as soon as this Sunday, for all we know. So speaking of that, who is your pick for the Daytona 500? I'm going to put you on the spot, and then I'll get to the championship after.
Oh man.
Haven't decided yet.
Well, I don't like making predictions before there are cars on track.
Yeah.
Because I want to know like who's fastest, who looks good in the draft.
That is true. You do have to know how fast they are in practice and everything. But I am going to put you on the spot. I'll put like a little like music here. Don't worry.
Man, I'm trying to remember who's been good recently there.
Well, that's the other thing with the Daytona 500 is predictions are, you can pretty much throw them out the door for the most part. Like McDowell won last year. I don't think one person would expect that. I'd love to see what the Vegas odds were for that.
Yeah. Well, McDowell had been good on super speedways, so it wasn't a surprise that he was there at the end to take advantage of it. Yeah. But yeah, I know what you mean.
But you just never know. I mean, it's one of those races.
Gonna go with
maybe Hamlin, because he's always been good there, but
I'm going with Ryan Blaney. I'm going with Ryan Blaney.
Okay. I like
it. Because he he's won twice at Talladega. He was in 2020, he was this close to winning.
Yeah.
Before the accident with Ryan Newman happened. But I'll go with Ryan Blaney to win the Daytona 500.
All right, now I got to put you on the spot again for the championship, and I know this is the toughest possible year to predict it, but I still have to ask because that's how we're wrapping up here.
Kurt Busch.
Wow. Okay, I didn't expect. You think Kurt Busch is going to jump into 2311 and just win it?
He's one of the drivers. He's had a little bit. He's a driver that's had quite a bit of experience with the car, but at this point, like he was one of the first drivers to have more than one test in the car. He's been driving it since late 2020. He's an adaptable driver. Everyone's saying this car puts the car back in the driver's hands more, and that's a Kurt Busch. If I'm Kurt Busch, I'm liking that. He's got TRD support, which Chip Ganassi Racing was never at the top when it came to getting resources from Chevy. So I think that his first 04. So his first title was 04. It has been 17,
18
years since his first title. Kurt Busch is going to get his second title 18 years later.
I love that pick because it's not the typical, Truex, Elliott, Harvick, Hamlin hasn't won, but you get the point. Like, it's not one of these front runners, Larson. Like, I do like that pick a lot because it's something different. And if you were to ask me, I probably would have picked one of the front runners. My dad, every single time I ask him about a race, it's Truex going to win it. And sometimes he's right. But,
I'm guessing your dad's also a New England native, right?
He is. Oh yeah.
So
yeah. I don't know if that's why he does it. He just kind of, I ask him, we do our picks every weekend, and it's either Truex or Hamlin. It's like, you can't get another answer out of the guy, but
or he's just a JGR guy.
So. Maybe. Yeah. I think maybe subconsciously, because I don't think he has an allegiance right now. He just goes Truex every weekend. Can't get another answer out of him. All right. Well, we'll wrap it up there. Daniel McFadin, thank you so much for coming on, and I really appreciate it. It's always good to chat NASCAR with someone. It's few and far between around here, but I do appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me on, Justin. And to anyone listening, you can find my work at I write columns for frontstretch.com, one weekly column. I will be in Daytona. This, like I said, starting whenever you're hearing this. I'll be in Daytona all week for Front Stretch and also Speed Sport. You can find my work at Speed Sport. I just published 2 stories over the weekend at Speed Sport. One on Ben Rhodes, the defending Truck Series champion. We talked about his press conference, his infamous press conference, and what the fallout from that has been like for him. And also did a story on Daniel Hamrick, which came out over the weekend too. And you can subscribe to my own NASCAR podcast, Dropping the Hammer with Daniel McFadin. The Ben Rhodes episode dropped today, Monday. So please go check that out. And then Wednesday will be the Daniel Hamrick episode. So you get to hear the interviews in their entirety. And so we got a whole year of back episodes that you can listen to, including during the off season. I talked to Ryan McGee at ESPN. We talked about the Bubba Wallace documentary that he produced that aired in the off season. And we also talked about the Dale Earnhardt documentary he did last year.
Awesome.
So that was a really, really cool conversation. So check that out. Also, subscribe on YouTube, youtube.com/Daniel McFadin. You can see the video versions of almost all my interviews. So yeah,
awesome.
Check those out.
Yeah, we'll be sure to include that in the description as well. So if anyone wants to follow all that stuff, we'll include that right there for you. So you can click right there. All right, Daniel, thank you very much again. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Justin.